Then our boy wants to know what happened to the account creation ticket. Suzuki glances at the beaten-up gangster and already gets the idea. He explains that item is one of the most popular there is, so it was sold as soon as it came in. He asks if that's all, and Ryuki says no. He pulls out a bag and says he's there to make some trades, since that's what this place specializes in. Suzuki goes to check it out, saying he's curious to see what the kid brought. And he seems surprised, right? I think if those orbs he was farming the dungeon earlier, he asks all of this. These are mana orbs, and asks if he even knows how valuable each one is. But Ryuki answers that clearly he's being underestimated, just because he's an unknown. Obviously, he knows something as basic as that. At the very least, our boy should understand prices. He used to be a strategist in a guild, he's not dumb. I hope so anyway. In the dungeons, there are two types of items. The normal ones like swords and shields and all that, and some called specials. The specials, for example, are things like potions, mana orbs, that kind of stuff. The higher the grade, the purer it is, and the more power you can beat out of it. But Suzuki replies that it doesn't make sense to sell something like that on the black market. If the price is already set by the regular market, why is he trying to do that here? Ryuki just tells him not to get involved and to go ahead and sell. That's what he came there to negotiate. Suzuki, however, finds it strange. An unknown who doesn't have access to the game shouldn't have mana stones to sell. Then he already tells Luger, right, that little thug there, to disappear from the place. The guy's all crook, wondering if Ryuki authorizes it, who just tells him to scram. With that, the door explodes right on the poor guy. The seller then says that, yeah, it really is strange for an unknown to be selling mana stones, unless he stole them. But he also knows of someone who's been defying logic. Ryuki is about to ask what it is, and the guy says he's truly surprised. The star of that video just walked into his shop. With that, he opens his arms, welcoming Ryo 7017. If he wanted to hide his identity, he should have been much more careful, especially carrying a mana stone like that. It's an item dropped specifically from the Black Chaos Knight, and you can see that on the app. With all that said, he wants to know what Ryu 7017 is doing in his store. Yeah, this modern world is crazy, man. You post 10 seconds of a video, and everybody already knows who you are. Ryuki just admits that it's him and says they should focus on the business. Suzuki says fine and wants to know what he's looking for. Harboy points at his head and says he's looking for a mod. The seller says he must be going crazy, doesn't even know what that is. But Ryuki responds that he knows they're apps that artificially alter some things inside the labyrinth. Even an unknown like him knows about that. The seller then says that apparently he doesn't know anything. Most of the mods were cancelled due to limitations or critical failures. Our boy though, uninterested, it just says a black market vendor must be the only one who still has a few stored away. He wants those that reduce the game's difficulty, and he doesn't care about the side effects. Suzuki asks if he didn't see that guy outside the store scratching his neck. That guy is one of the unlucky ones who tried using a mod and got wrecked. Man, what the hell is that? Back in my day, you try using a little hack and you got banned, all right? That's it. The poor guy had his brain fried, and Suzuki says that was from a simple pain reduction mod, and it calls all that. Obviously, the more changes you try to make, the worse the side effects can be. That guy tried to reduce the amount of pain he felt, and now all his other senses are extremely heightened. Basically, he's ruined, and even after removing the mod, he couldn't recover. From insanity to instant death, even spontaneous combustion, all sorts of things can happen, and that's why mods are illegal. But the Ryuki says he's not just some regular player. It's no coincidence he defeated the Chaos Mate. People are already calling him a cheer, so he should know how he plays. He doesn't care about the cost or the risk. If there's any mod sitting in this place, he wants it. Suzuki asks if he wants the ones that were discarded for being extremely dangerous. Ryuki just says yes, he wants to take a look. The kid snaps his fingers and says fine then. He can take a look at the ones that were discontinued. He really has the guts to use something like that. He can start testing. In the box, there are CDS, man, from version 1 to 25. I would never in my life install something from a CD into my head. Are you crazy? But Ryuki is there thinking. He knows this stuff is risky, like he has his reasons. That first mod, right, there was triple power attack, and iGun already says that one's going to be a total failure. Actually, it's just exaggerated numbers and doesn't even have an effect. The next device in theory gave the power to see 1 second into the future. Once again, iGun says it's trash. It'll just make his vision blurry. The other mod made your character look amazing, and iGun says that it's possible to do that with some kind of illusion. But it's useless. The other one increased all skill damage by 20%, but it would destroy his brain. Also, it would increase the pain he feels by 3,000 times, which clearly wasn't a good idea. Ryuki already realized that all of this was just trash, until he saw one that was a probability manipulator. iGun analyzes it and says that the person who made this was truly a genius. It wasn't very effective, but it increased his luck by between 0.3 and 0.5%. And considering how it would be implemented in our boy, that would probably result in around 0.5 to 1% for him. Ryuki knew that 1% might not seem like much, but when it comes to luck, man, that's a lot. He then turns to Suzuki and says he's going to take 3 mods, including that one. The seller replies that apparently he's not all talk and really did pick out the few that were actually decent from that pile of trash. Obviously, the protagonist finds that peculiar. Why did this bastard offer him junk to begin with? The shopkeeper apologizes and says he wasn't trying to mess with the kid. It's just that another client asked him to take a look at those mods, and he'd already seen a few of them. Then Ryuki wants to know if that request came from the person who created those mods. To which Suzuki replies that soon enough, he'll find out. Besides, he'll give him a special discount, since those things we have never even seen the light of day otherwise. Then some messages appear asking if he wants to install the applications, but they warn that once he clicks yes, it's irreversible. In his mind, he already decides to install, but then Suzuki says he wants to ask one last thing. If these mods work, what is it that he wants to do with this power? The scene doesn't give an answer, man. We see a treat in some time later. Suzuki is laughing like a lunatic on the ground. Our boy pointed upward and told me that he wants to reach the skies. He doesn't want to be bronze or silver, not even gold or platinum. He wants to take everyone down and warm the way and reach the top of that world. That crazy seller, who clearly has some kind of mental issue, replies that he's looking forward to seeing what the kid is going to do. Sometime later, back in the game, he's holding his identification card in the Phantom world. He thought it would be hard since he's an unknown, but obviously, no one was going to suspect anything. After all, an unknown shouldn't even be in the game. But now finally, he had arrived at the starting village. Everyone's happy. The old man selling his overpriced apple, and the kids are running around with their goofy little faces in the middle of all that is our boy, impressed to how peaceful that place seemed. Suddenly, iGun pops up, telling him to start pulling tickets already. It's been a long time since he tried his luck. Ryuki tells the gacha addict to calm down a bit. He doesn't want to draw too much attention. But that's when our boy notices that there are people staring at him weird. The protagonist explains that he already knows this very well. It seems that NPCs are made to not like players. Of course, that's because players also don't treat NPCs like people, which ends up creating this vicious cycle. Then a guy in a blue jacket gets slammed to the ground. One with a beanie walks up, asking how the hell he had the nerve to try to rob him. The guy says he's starving, while the protagonist wonders what's going on. Also, the NPC's clothes looked very different from the rest of the people there. Ed explains that this guy seems to have come from another game in the labyrinth called Alien Space. But that game was shut down 3 months ago. Or basically, the entire world over there was deleted. The only way people could survive was to migrate to another game in the labyrinth. Now it's explained why there are a bunch of people wearing those weird clothes and starving. Adapting to a completely different world is not something that happens overnight. iGun says that as soon as a world is considered useless by Yggdrasil, it gets deleted on the spot. So if you better start running because that could even happen to Phantom. Rika replies that it's all good, as long as he can destroy Lin Fu and that damn guild Lindsay E, then he's fine with it. Sometime later, he managed to get room in an inn, and finally had a place to sleep. At that very moment, the robot is already talking again, saying this is the perfect time to pull some tickets and play gacha. Also his probability had slightly changed. Then in our items had lower chances now, and the SR and SSR were a little better. SSR, which used to be 0.3%, had now increased to 1%. More than 3 times higher. He then tells iGun that the long-awaited moment has come. Man, time to spin the roulette. The robot celebrates immediately, saying he has 40 tickets, 2 guaranteed SR and 15,000 points.